All right, welcome back to another edition of Through the Smoke, a Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting podcast here on the 24/7 Sports Network. David Lake, joined as always by Gabby Urrutia. We're joined again by special guest Mario Cristobal. It's been some time since we caught up with him here on the podcast and wanted to jump on and, have an exciting 2026 ahead and wanted to kind of lay the groundwork for this upcoming year. Before we jump into things, want to highlight our sponsors, right? Real quickly, Canes Connection. Go support those guys, canesconnection.com. Nick Musarino, if you've been injured in any type of accident, his information's in the show notes. And hit up Aaron Pascal if you're in the market for buying, selling, or investing in real estate in South Florida. All right, Coach, thank you for joining us. This will be fun. I want to just start with looking back at the CFP run in general, right? And just I want to pick your brain on maybe what you learned from navigating that run because, navigating a season is an art and it takes time to learn how to navigate a season. I feel like now with a four-team CFP, right? Four-game CFP when you get to the championship game, that's like learning how to navigate another season. So what did you feel like you learned from that process, just having to go through that with everything involved, right? Because it's a crazy time. A lot of stuff's going on too while you're playing games. But just navigating that situation, what did you feel like you learned that you can take and carry on and move forward from that in future years?
Well, certainly, first of all, thanks for having me on here. Certainly appreciate you guys. Always an honor to be here. As it regards to what did we learn? Probably the simplicity of the importance of getting better every single week. And then a little bit similar to the basketball, the NCAA tournament, peaking at the right time and how important that is. And then, the use of, I would say, just collaborating with strength and conditioning and sports science to have an awesome off season so that you can stay relatively healthy and make the modifications necessary that have these, since these seasons now stretch into, weeks 22, 23, 24 straight, that you can get into that part of the season and be as strong as you could possibly be and as healthy as you could possibly be so that enthusiasm and energy is high and you can play your best football. Self-scouting, critically important. You have to evolve on a weekly basis. You have to be in tune with what the other side is doing on a down by down series basis. It was just very high level, high octane football, and it was awesome.
Coach, along those lines, just the value of the guys in the locker room going through this experience, having this experience of understanding what it takes to win at the highest level. You play four straight top 10 games, in this CFP run. A lot of those guys are back for this 2026 season. Can you just talk about the value of these players now understanding what it truly means to play and to win at the highest level, and just culturally what that does for your program and your locker room as you head into an off season where, that's kind of the standard now, right? To get to the college football playoff, to play for championships. That's always the standard that you've set. Can you talk about just the value and how that impacts the team culturally?
Well, sure, it is priceless. I mean, like you mentioned, it's the standard. It was what we always strive to be and strive to do. But just as importantly was the fact that those guys went through 5-7 and 7-5. And that burns inside you in a different kind of way that it makes you do things and push yourself and push people that unless you experience that, you don't know what it's like to feel like that in the locker room after games, after a season. So that kind of stuff permeates the locker room when leaders of that time, of those seasons, step up and don't allow the culture to take any steps backwards. I've often told the staff in the short time we've been together since after our last game that this will be the most challenging season that we have because you had 42 players come into the program and they got here and practiced with us while we were in the playoffs and playing for a national championship, right? So they got here when it was already earned. And we have to reboot and restart everything regarding culture, regiment, standards, so that we all understand clearly that to get to those type of games and that type of a season, it's all about January, February, March, and all the way through. And again, the standard is set, the culture is high, the effort and the absolute intensity is relentless. So there's no going back, brother, only forward.
So, Coach, as we turn the page to 2026, right? And we'll get into some of the newcomers here with the portal and all of that. But I want to focus too on roster retention because I think that was a key story for you guys in this transfer portal window as well, especially when you recruit and you develop players at the level that your program does. But just roster retention, how excited are you that, look, some guys left and they got to go leave and, find their playing time elsewhere, et cetera. But it seems like, that you guys were able to retain a large part of the roster that you guys would have wanted to retain and to develop and push forward to next year as well. How key was that for you guys this offseason?
Well, I think it's a reflection of last year. Last year's success was heavily due to roster retention, and I don't think it'll be any different this year. We retained every starter. The pieces that are not here, it's always a different story behind each one. They're all,
Yeah.
they're all just individually handled and managed. Sometimes, like you mentioned, the roster's too thick in certain areas and guys can't see themselves play. Sometimes they don't believe they can play, or sometimes it's time for them to go because they're not meeting the standard. But we keep those things private and confidential because I do think I believe in coaching and teaching. And I believe that at some point in time, these guys will learn, whether it's here or somewhere else. So we always do it first class, help them get somewhere. And we stay above board, and it's always been really smooth. Now if someone gets out of line, then that's, then we handle it a certain way. And we're no longer that program that people take punches and shots at. Those days are done with that mind. I watch that from afar. We've been building to get away from that, and that's where we feel that we are now. So that being said, yeah, the guys in certain rooms came back a little bit more deeply than others, and they want that competition. And for example, the running back room, they want to run behind that offensive line, and they want to run the schemes that we run, and they understand how involved they are in the passing game, right? We've increased the competition talent levels at just about every position on the roster. And our guys are starting to see the model of, let's say, a Cam Ward, who was here for a year, but came in as a potential day 3 guy and is the first overall pick. And they also see the example of an Akeem Mesidor, who was here for 4 years and went from a day 3 pick to now launching himself into a first round pick. They have also seen the progress of a team that was struggling to make a bowl to one that has an opportunity to play in the final game of the season. So all that stuff is validation, and all that stuff does nothing but increase the amount of energy and enthusiasm and approach, more conviction and process. So, brother, we will push harder than we ever have before to make sure that complacency doesn't overtake us, that we keep our mouths shut, that we go to work and just focus on making the Canes better.
Coach, I want to ask you, obviously, high-profile portal addition in quarterback Darian Mensah. Just, your first impression of him just as a person, because last 2 cycles, you added a transfer quarterback. They were great players, but also great leaders and different leaders, right? And look, his story is still to be written from a leadership standpoint, but just his first impression that he's made on you. And also, I wanted to ask you, because, there's video out there that Darian and Cam Ward have worked out together in the past. I'm curious if Cam has reached out to you and, told you his thoughts on Darian, or if you reached out to him, et cetera, on that relationship.
I think I don't think Cam Ward will let you know that anyone is good. I think he thinks he's the only person that's good. And that's one of the things we love about Cam. And certainly appreciate how much we appreciate him, man, and seeing his success in the NFL. But in our early impressions of Darian, he's everything that we've hoped for so far. We haven't taken the field for spring ball yet, but natural abilities, instincts, driven, determined, his off script, on script, pocket presence, accuracy, knowledge of the game. I mean, put the ball in tight windows, put just really accurate passes on the money versus man coverage. He's awesome. And I'll mention this. Looking at our young quarterback room is fantastic. I mean, we look forward to that part developing as well. And we think that Darren could play a huge role in that also. But again, we're surrounding these guys with some really high level weapons, right? And those guys know they have to compete, and those guys know they have high level quarterback. So I think it all comes together really, really nicely. And I think we all understand that the secrets out there on Green Tree practice field that we have to get to work. So great early impressions so far. And really all the newcomers in general just have made a really strong impression.
Coach, I want to flip it over to the other side of the ball. There's a lot of buzz about what this offense could potentially be with Darian Mensah. I want to talk a little bit about the defensive line. Ruben Bain off to the NFL, Keem Mesidor off to the NFL. You guys kind of reload with Damon Wilson, Keanu Davis, Jarquez Carter, and even Hayden Lowe, who we didn't really get to see last year, but he comes back and I saw him. He looks like $1 million too. Just how excited are you for this group of defensive linemen and what they could kind of bring to the table in this coming season?
Well, we've recruited really well there, and those guys have been groomed and they've been mentored by the guys that you had mentioned. I mean, Ruben and Akeem, you couldn't find better mentors than that. Greater examples. What they do on a daily is the way it's supposed to be. So you mentioned some great names, and then think of Armando Blunt,
Yeah.
because Armando was an early, he was a reclass guy as well. So now that body, that's now 270 pounds, and he's been playing some elite football for us. And third, Scroggins. No one, really understands and has mentioned some of the great plays he made while he got his opportunities. Now that body's developed. Now he has experience. Marquise Lightfoot, a Booker Pickett, the young guys that just got here as well. There's a lot of guys that are going to have opportunity and that are uber talented, and they've had the best example. And they're going to be shoved. That example is going to be shoved in their face all the time, so they understand the standard is the standard, and we can't go back from that. But yeah, I mean, we're in a great position in that front. We're athletic, we're explosive. Now we got to play a certain way, okay? And our guys got to understand that's the only way that we're going to do things. We're going to be very, very physical. We're going to be relentless with our effort. We're going to be very technical and fundamental. And we're gonna play with some football violence. We're gonna play some real physical ball.
Yeah.
Coach, I want to go big picture and talk about, you've touched on a little bit, but just the culture that you've established here at Miami over your 4 years now going into year five, right? And, I think it's a big edge when it comes to navigating an off season with the development and competition that happens in an off season and navigating a season as well, because adversity inevitably is going to strike during a season at some point. So how do you bounce back from that? And I bring this up, look, not to throw shade at whatever culture you inherited, et cetera, but more so to just get your thoughts on the difference between what it's like here now, going into year five compared to when you walked in terms of like, because every coach establishes a different culture, right? And it takes time to establish that. But getting the program to the point where you have the players willing to compete, willing to come back, like you were saying, to a loaded running back room where you're going to have to push yourself and develop to earn playing time. Also, just preparing to a level, outside of the structured hours that you guys set within the limits of the NCAA rules, right? You want guys that are self-motivated like that. It seems like things are now at that point where you want it going into year five. And how much of an edge do you feel like that is to a program during this era where it's essentially a new team every year because of the portal and all that stuff, but the culture is something that can be omnipresent.
No doubt, and you can't win at a high level and the real big games and deep into the season without great culture. And that 25 team, this team that we just wrapped up with, developed great culture over time through hard work, investing time with each other, investing time in each other. They refused to be denied. They always believed they were going to win. They always they accepted and just attacked hard work. Awesome. And like our first team meeting a couple weeks ago, that was the 25 team. This is the 26 team.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing is automatically inherited. It is a true restart button approach, And that means that the offseason is incredibly hard and difficult and challenging and in the right kind of way, not in a reckless, just try to be hard on guys. No, and it's all aimed and geared towards just getting better, more resilient, tougher, more physical, finishing, fighting adversity. Critical, absolutely critical. And you always want more. And it's gotten to a high level. We want more. And our coaches have to do a great job infusing this into their rooms. That's a coach's biggest job, right? Orchestrate awesome practices and carry the culture back to the room and implementing it. And we're making progress. We won't know exactly where it's at, but we'll know week by week to what level it's improving. But you can take to the bank. This offseason, it's going to be an ass kicking, and it needs to be, right? Because God knows these guys have heard so many times, hey, what a good season. It's come so far, all this. And that is awesome. This community right now is ignited. We have reactivated the most rabid fan base in America. But with that comes, the praise that as a coach just makes you cringe and like, it's like when Jimmy Johnson, my first, but we're getting ready for spring, I believe. And man, it's like lined us up after running stations, lined us up at the goal line and said, you sons of bleep, not one of you won that championship last year. Michael Irvin, Melvin Bratton, those guys won that. You guys haven't done bleep. And if
Yep.
you want to quit, step your ass out in front right now. And everybody's kind of looking down the line, who's going to do it? No one. Everybody wanted a piece of it. So that's where we're at. We're at a point where we have accomplished a lot of progress. The culture, the culture, the culture, brother. Nothing is more important right now than us shutting our mouths, going to work, getting to know and trust and love each other, and making sure we get better. Most important thing. Great question.
Yeah, Coach, you guys finished the national championship game, and you're a couple days later, you're on a helicopter, you're all over the country recruiting. I'm just curious, the response that you got going out on the road and meeting with, obviously the class of 2027, this stuff never stops. Just what was it like kind of going out on the road and meeting with some of these guys, just with the fresh understanding that you can actually win championships at Miami? This isn't something you're just talking about anymore, like we could potentially do it. You had to sell Ruben and CC and guys on the potential of it. These guys now know that you can come to Miami and potentially hoist trophies. Just how much more ammo does that give you guys on the trail? And just what's the feedback you're getting nationally from some of these prospects?
Well, they saw it all. The feedback, the welcome was incredible. Like everywhere. It was absolutely awesome. They saw our guys on stages on these New Year's Six games holding up trophies and confetti and all that other stuff. So it was incredible. And then as a staff, I mean, come on, man, you take losses. I mean, no one could fathom the amount of pain that brings, but also being a professional and being a competitor, knowing that, you know what, all the great accomplishments can never, ever be delayed or tainted by the outcome of one game. It's time to go again. And we're bringing energy to the road. And our guys understand, our coaches felt like, hey, man, we're actually going to get better and better and better if we just stay the course and just push. So we brought energy to the road. The road brought energy to us. The helicopters are fantastic, man. God, those things are. I mean, I wish I knew how to fly one. I would keep one. Get everywhere. Again, using all the resources to get to as many places as we could right away because the time was shrunk down.
Right.
The farther you play, you get penalized for that. You only have so much time out. But I think you'll see, well, there's going to be a ton of guys coming through campus once this thing opens up again. And it was an incredible, incredible, I would say, welcome and feel and push on the road. The feeling about Miami is really, really strong, and the best players in the country are going to be coming down this way to check it out.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this topic. Can't let you join us without touching on the offensive line. And look, to the outside, right? It's a new look group, four or so new starters on that offensive line, but you know what you got on the inside. And look, there's still development and competition yet to happen as those guys earn their spots. But let us in a little bit. Tell us what, excites you about this offensive line group. What has you confident about, because now the standard is high at Miami. Miami is now an offensive line destination. Tell us about what you got with this 2026 group and the competition that's going to be happening this offseason.
Well, they've had the benefit of watching some veterans play together for a good bit, and they understand the importance of five guys always working as one. But you look at the way Samson played this year. Samson played as good as anybody else in the conference, and most of the guys in the country was a co-starter, right? Matt McCoy, the same thing. Not only that, as big of an upside like Samson as anybody else that we've had go through the University of Miami. And Ryan, he didn't play as much this year, but he was a co-starter and actually started game one the previous year. And we consider him that as well. So you have three like staples veterans that have a lot of experience coming back. And the young talent that has been developing or that just got here, big, fast, strong, physical, very, very smart. And I think you guys know the culture that Coach Mirabal creates in that room is unmatched. It's second to none, just over time and time and time. And I think what you're seeing here, and you saw our moves, right? We took one guy in the portal, second one's come on in, but we have a lot of faith in what we have recruited and what we've seen in practice, that we can continue that tradition and continue to elevate that tradition. On this side, there's no hesitation to say we're really excited about that group and for the right reasons. And it's kind of neat to see a position like this kind of run the course of what college football has been forever, where the next guy's up because he's been developed and he's been pushed. These guys can roll, man. These guys can roll. And the way we practice, experience is gained pretty quickly.
Coach, appreciate you. We could talk to you for hours, but we know your time is valuable. Appreciate you joining the show. Thank you again for this awesome run this past year, reminding everyone what being a Miami Hurricane's all about with, bringing it back to the standard of where Miami's supposed to be. Playing on the biggest stages should be commonplace for this program. So we're excited about 2026. Spring ball right around the corner. I know I can't wait for spring ball to get here when it does get here. And appreciate you for joining us. And until next time, take care.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all you do in covering the University of Miami and our players and whatnot. And thank you for being real and making sure that true journalism really exists and diving deep into people and processes and whatnot. It's been awesome having you guys with this process and really looking forward to going the next steps that come with being a Miami Hurricane in 2026. Thank you guys. Go Canes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.